The stars twinkled peacefully in the night sky above Mars Colony 7, betraying no hint of the storm that was about to break. Staff Sergeant Tom Walker stood at his post, scanning the horizon with practiced ease. After 3 years of guard duty at this remote mining facility, he knew every ridge and crater by heart. What he didn't know was that he was being watched. High above the thin Martian atmosphere, a massive ship hung in silent observation. Its dark hull absorbed all light, making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Inside, alien eyes studied the lone human guard with cold calculation. "The specimen appears suitable," the ship commander growled in their clicking language. "Proceed with extraction." Tom's first warning came as a faint humming in the air. His combat training kicked in immediately as he raised his rifle and activated his suit's emergency beacon. "Control, this is Walker. I'm picking up anomalous." The rest of his transmission was cut short as a brilliant beam of light engulfed him. The sensation was like being dunked in ice water while simultaneously being stretched in all directions. When his vision cleared, he found himself in a stark metal chamber, surrounded by tall, insectoid creatures. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with segmented bodies covered in natural armor plating. Multiple compound eyes studied him with alien intensity. Tom's marine training took over. He immediately noted possible weak points in their anatomy and began cataloging details about his surroundings. "Remarkable," one of the aliens clicked. "It maintains composure even when displaced. The stories of human adaptability appear accurate." Tom kept his breathing steady, though his heart was racing. "I am Staff Sergeant Thomas Walker, United Earth Marine Corps. Under Article 7 of the Galactic Sentient Rights Treaty, I demand to know why I've been taken." The aliens exchanged looks that might have been surprise. The one who seemed to be in charge stepped forward. "The creature knows of the treaty." "Fascinating. We are the collectors, human. Your species has drawn our attention. We study potentially dangerous races, thoroughly." A chill ran down Tom's spine at the way the alien emphasized that last word. He'd heard stories of mysterious disappearances on the outer colonies, but until now they'd been dismissed as space legends. "My people will come for me," Tom stated firmly, maintaining eye contact with the lead alien. "Whatever you're planning, it's not worth the response you'll trigger." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your confidence is misplaced. We have taken specimens from 1,000 worlds. None have ever found us. None have ever come close. Your species is young, primitive. You barely grasp interplanetary travel." Tom allowed himself a small smile. "Then you really don't know humans at all." Back on Mars, alarms were already blaring throughout Colony 7. The emergency beacon from Tom's suit had transmitted for exactly 2.3 seconds before cutting out, more than enough time. Within minutes, the colony's quantum entanglement communicator was sending an encrypted burst transmission to Earth. The message was brief: unsanctioned extraction event. Marine taken. Coordinates attached. Protocol Fury authorized. In a hardened bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Laura Reed read the message with grim satisfaction. She'd been waiting 15 years for this moment. Since the first disappearances began, Earth's military had been preparing. Building. Planning. The aliens thought they were studying humanity. They didn't realize humanity had been studying them right back. "Begin Protocol Fury," she ordered. "All fleets deploy. Activate the stealth network. And get me the president. It's time to show these collectors why taking one of ours was their last mistake." Across the solar system, hidden installations hummed to life. Ships that didn't officially exist emerged from carefully concealed bases. Quantum tracking systems locked onto the faint trail left by the alien vessel's departure. The collectors had no way of knowing, but they'd just triggered humanity's most elaborate trap. For years, Earth had suspected an advanced alien race was behind the mysterious disappearances. Unable to prevent the abductions, they'd instead prepared to respond to one. Every taken human had been a bearer of carefully crafted misinformation, painting a picture of humanity as far more primitive than they really were. Now, watching the alien's ship vanish into faster-than-light travel, Tom smiled again. In his bloodstream, specially engineered nanites were already broadcasting his location across multiple spectrums. In his brain, a quantum-entangled particle maintained an unbreakable connection to Earth's tracking systems. The collectors thought they were taking a simple marine to study. Instead, they just captured a carefully prepared Trojan horse. And behind that horse, the full might of an angry Earth was about to be unleashed. As the alien ship accelerated to faster-than-light speeds, Tom settled in to wait. He knew it wouldn't be long. After all, humanity hadn't spent the last 15 years just preparing defenses. They'd been preparing for war. The vast emptiness of deep space held many secrets, but none quite like the fleet of ships that now emerged from their hidden positions throughout the solar system. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of human military engineering, their sleek designs incorporating both stolen alien technology and unique human innovations. Admiral James Cooper stood on the bridge of the EFS Nighthawk, Earth's most advanced stealth carrier. The massive viewscreen before him displayed a quantum trace map, showing the faint trail left by the alien vessel carrying Staff Sergeant Walker. "Signal from the tracking nanites is strong and steady," reported Lieutenant Amy Davis from her station. "The collector's ship is heading toward the Orion Arm, maintaining their current FTL speed." Cooper nodded, a predatory smile crossing his weathered face. "They think they're being clever, taking the most commonly used space lanes." "Perfect." He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, execute Formation Delta. Remember your training, this is what we've prepared for." The human fleet moved with practiced precision. 15 years of preparation had created a force that operated like a well-oiled machine. Ships arranged themselves in a three-dimensional net pattern, spreading out to cover vast distances while maintaining quantum communication links. Aboard the collector's vessel, Tom Walker sat in his cell, appearing to all observers as a model prisoner. The aliens had subjected him to various tests over the past few hours, seemingly fascinated by his calm demeanor. What they didn't notice was how he carefully observed their movements, memorized their patterns, and occasionally flexed his left hand, activating different broadcast modes in his nanites. The lead researcher, whom Tom had mentally dubbed Clicks, approached his cell again. "Your biological adaptability is remarkable. Previous specimens showed signs of severe stress by this point." "Marines are trained to handle stress," Tom replied evenly. "Though I have to say, your hospitality leaves something to be desired." Humor in captivity, Clicks noted in their database. A known human coping mechanism. The alien tilted their head. "You should know that we've detected attempts to track our vessel. Primitive quantum signatures. Your species is persistent, but ultimately futile." Tom maintained his neutral expression, but internally he smiled. The aliens had detected exactly what Earth wanted them to detect. Meanwhile, the real tracking system, based on principles the collectors hadn't even discovered yet, continued functioning perfectly. Back on the Nighthawk, Cooper received a new signal. "Sir, the target vessel is increasing speed. They've detected our decoy quantum signatures." "Right on schedule," Cooper muttered. "Begin Phase 2. Signal the Ghost Squadron." At the edges of the pursuit formation, 5 ships simultaneously activated their experimental drives. These ships, smaller than the others and painted in light-absorbing black, represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, true invisibility to all known forms of detection. The collector's ship continued accelerating, its crew confident they were leaving their pursuers behind. They had no way of knowing that the Ghost Squadron was already overtaking them, moving into perfect flanking positions. Energy spike from the target. Lieutenant Davis called out. "They're preparing to jump to their secondary FTL system." Cooper's smile widened. "Ghost Squadron, execute containment protocol. All other ships, fall back to minimum safe distance." The moment the Collector's ship activated its jump drive, the trap was sprung. The 5 Ghost ships simultaneously activated their gravitational disruptor arrays, creating a complex web of intersecting fields that caught the alien vessel mid-jump. The result was spectacular. Space itself seemed to shudder as the Collector's ship was forcibly dragged back into normal space. Inside their vessel, alarms blared as systems crashed. The aliens rushed to battle stations, finally realizing they weren't dealing with the primitive species they'd assumed. Tom felt the ship shudder and braced himself. Right on time, he thought. Multiple hull breaches, an alien crew member reported frantically. "Unknown energy signatures surrounding us. Our shields are ineffective." The ship commander rushed to the bridge, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. Impossible. Their technology was decades behind this level. How? Their words were cut off as new alarms sounded. The main view screen showed 5 black ships materializing around them, their hulls seeming to drink in the starlight. Moments later, the rest of the human fleet dropped out of FTL, weapons primed and ready. Admiral Cooper's voice boomed through every speaker on the alien vessel. "Attention Collector vessel. This is Admiral James Cooper of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your ship is contained and surrounded. You have taken one of our people, a mistake many species have learned not to make. Surrender immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly how much humanity has advanced while letting you underestimate us." In his cell, Tom stood up, rolling his shoulders. The nanites in his bloodstream had one final task to perform. At his mental command, they began systematically shutting down the cell's force field, using data gathered from hours of subtle scanning. The force field flickered and died just as the first security team rushed toward the detention level. Tom stepped out, unarmed but confident. He'd memorized the ship's layout from his earlier observations. All he needed to do was reach the auxiliary control room 3 decks up. "This is Staff Sergeant Walker," he sub-vocalized, knowing the nanites would transmit to the fleet. "Moving to secure secondary control systems. Requesting precision strike on main engineering in 30 seconds. Cooper's voice came through clearly in his head. "Confirmed, Sergeant. Ghost Squadron is moving into position. Give them hell." As Tom moved through the ship's corridors, he could hear chaos erupting throughout the vessel. The Collectors were discovering, far too late, that humanity had spent years preparing for this exact scenario. Every disappearance, every abduction had been carefully documented, studied, and used to build a comprehensive understanding of their technology and tactics. The aliens had thought they were the hunters. They never considered that humanity had turned their own game against them, using their arrogance and secrecy as weapons. Now, surrounded by the full might of Earth's hidden fleet, they were about to learn why taking a single Marine had been their greatest mistake. The real hunt was just beginning. The corridors of the Collector vessel echoed with chaos as Tom Walker moved with practiced efficiency. His captors had made a crucial mistake during their tests. They'd never restrained his augmented muscles, assuming the slight bulking was natural human physiology. Now those same muscles let him move with superhuman speed and precision. 3 alien security officers rounded the corner ahead, raising their weapons. Tom was already moving before they fired, diving into a maintenance alcove. The aliens' energy weapons scorched the wall where he'd been standing moments before. He smiled grimly. Their weapons might be advanced, but their tactics were predictable. "Target locked for precision strike," came Admiral Cooper's voice through the nanite link. "Executing in 10 seconds. Brace yourself, Sergeant." Tom counted down in his head. Right on cue, a massive explosion rocked the ship. The Ghost Squadron had fired their concentrated plasma lances directly into the vessel's main engineering section, using data from Tom's nanites to target the exact weak point in the shields. The security team stumbled as artificial gravity flickered. Tom burst from cover, covering the distance between them in 2 bounds. Years of martial arts training combined with enhanced strength made the next few seconds brutally efficient. All 3 aliens were unconscious before they could recover their balance. Engineering hit confirmed, Tom subvocalized as he retrieved one of the alien weapons. Moving to secondary control room now. How's the fleet holding up? Like a dream, Sergeant, Cooper replied. The collectors tried to call for reinforcements, but our quantum jammers are holding. They're not going anywhere, and no one's coming to help them. Outside the captured vessel, the human fleet maintained their containment formation. The Ghost Squadron's ships shifted positions continuously, their gravitational disruptor fields preventing any possibility of escape through conventional or FTL means. The rest of the fleet had their weapons trained on specific points of the alien ship, ready to disable any systems that showed signs of powering up. On the Nighthawk's bridge, Admiral Cooper watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Status report on the ship's crew? Lieutenant Davis consulted her screens. We're detecting approximately 300 life forms, sir. Most are congregating in defensive positions around critical systems. They seem to be following standard containment protocols, but they're clearly not prepared for an internal threat like Sergeant Walker. Of course they're not. Cooper allowed himself a small smile. They've never had a prisoner turn the tables on them before. Speaking of which, patch me through to their command frequency again. The alien ship commander's agitated voice filled the bridge moments later. Your actions are a violation of galactic law. We are authorized to study potentially dangerous species. Let me stop you right there, Cooper interrupted. We've known about your authorization for years. Did you really think we wouldn't investigate the disappearances? That we wouldn't find the records of your activities in the databases of the worlds we traded with? You've been operating with impunity for too long, thinking your technological advantage made you untouchable. Inside the alien vessel, Tom reached the access shaft leading to the secondary control room. The ship's layout was exactly as predicted by Earth's intelligence. The collectors were nothing if not consistent in their ship designs. As he began climbing, he noticed something interesting on the weapon he'd captured. Admiral, you seeing this through my feed? He asked, examining the weapon's casing. These marks, they're manufacturing stamps from the Centauri Trading Alliance. Looks like our friends have been shopping in some interesting places. Copy that, Cooper replied. Add it to the evidence list. The Galactic Council's going to be very interested in proof that the collectors have been using supposedly regulated technology in their operations. Tom reached the upper level and paused at the entrance to the secondary control room. His nanites detected 6 life forms inside, all clustered around the control panels. He could hear them arguing in their clicking language, probably trying to restore the systems damaged by the precision strike. Ready for Phase 3? Cooper asked. Born ready, sir, Tom replied. He reached into a hidden compartment in his boot, another thing the aliens had failed to detect, and removed a small device. It looked like a simple metal sphere, but it contained some of humanity's most advanced non-lethal technology. The sphere rolled silently into the control room. None of the aliens noticed it until it was too late. A soft pulse of electromagnetic energy, carefully calibrated to affect their nervous systems, dropped all 6 collectors unconscious instantly. Secondary control room secured, Tom reported as he entered the room. His fingers flew over the alien controls. Another benefit of Earth's careful preparation was complete knowledge of collector technology. Initiating system override. You should have full access to their networks in 3, 2, 1. On the Nighthawk, Lieutenant Davis's screens lit up with streaming data. Connection established. We're getting everything, their full database, ship schematics, communication logs. Sir, there's more here than we expected. They've been doing this a lot longer than we thought, to a lot more species. Cooper's expression hardened. Download everything. And get me a channel to their entire ship. Once the channel was open, he spoke with calm authority. Attention collector vessel. We now have control of your secondary systems and access to your database. We know what you've done, not just to humans, but to countless other species. Your options are simple: surrender now and face justice before the Galactic Council, or we can do this the hard way. The ship commander's response was immediate and angry. You primitive, their transmission cut off abruptly. Sorry about that, Tom's voice came through instead. They were about to make a poor decision. I've locked down their primary control room. They can't even flush the toilets without our permission now. Cooper allowed himself a genuine laugh. Well done, Sergeant. Stand by for boarding teams. Let's show these collectors how humanity deals with those who prey on others. As Earth's Marines prepared to board the vessel, Tom Walker stood in the secondary control room, alien weapon ready. The tables had turned completely. The hunters were now the hunted, their arrogance becoming their downfall. They'd taken one Marine, thinking they were studying a primitive species. Instead, they'd given humanity exactly the opportunity it had been waiting for. The real question now wasn't whether the collectors would surrender, but how many other species would step forward once their activities were exposed. Earth was about to make some very interesting allies in the galactic community. And it all started because they made the mistake of taking one Marine. The boarding operation proceeded with mechanical precision. Teams of Earth Marines, clad in advanced combat suits that made them look more like sleek robots than humans, breached the collector vessel at strategic points. Each team moved with coordinated efficiency, their tactics refined through years of preparation and simulation. Tom Walker met the first team at a major junction, having secured the path from the secondary control room. Welcome aboard the not-so-pleasant cruise line, he greeted them with a grim smile. Watch out for the customer service, they're a bit snippy. Captain Mark Rogers, leading the boarding team, nodded professionally but couldn't suppress a small grin. Glad to see your sense of humor survived the abduction, Sergeant. Status report? Most of the crew is contained in their quarters or workstations, Tom reported, bringing up a holographic display from his captured alien device. But there's something you need to see. Follow me. They moved deeper into the ship, passing sections where unconscious collectors lay slumped at their posts, victims of the carefully calibrated neural disruptors Earth's forces had deployed. The aliens had never considered that humanity might have developed weapons specifically designed to incapacitate their species. Sir, Tom called over the command channel, Admiral Cooper needs to see this. Patching in visual feed now. The team had reached a massive chamber deep within the ship. Inside, rows of stasis pods lined the walls, stretching up several stories. Most were empty, but some contained various alien beings, all in suspended animation. Mother of Mercy, Cooper's voice came through their comms. How many? Lieutenant Davis's voice followed, analyzing the data streaming from their suits. Detecting 42 live subjects, sir. Multiple species, wait, confirming, 3 of them are human. Reading vital signs stable but degraded. They've been here a while. Tom approached one of the pods containing a human figure. The face was gaunt but recognizable from missing persons reports, Dr. Marcus Reynolds, a xenobiologist who disappeared from a research station near Neptune 2 years ago. They weren't just studying us, Tom said quietly. They were collecting specimens from all over the galaxy. Building a database of potential threats to their dominance. Captain Rogers ordered his teams to secure the chamber. Admiral, requesting immediate medical evacuation for the survivors. And sir, you might want to see what we found in their research logs. On the Nighthawk, Cooper reviewed the translated data with growing anger. The collectors hadn't been operating alone, they were part of a larger organization, one that saw itself as the galaxy's self-appointed guardians. Any species that showed too much promise, too much potential for rapid advancement, became targets for study. "Lieutenant," Cooper's voice was steel, "get me a secure channel to Earth Command. They need to see this. And prepare a data package for our allies in the Centauri Trading Alliance. I think it's time we showed the galaxy exactly what happens when someone tries to suppress humanity's potential." Back on the collector vessel, Tom and the boarding teams had reached the ship's primary control center. The command crew had barricaded themselves inside, still believing they could somehow salvage the situation. "Final warning," Tom broadcast through the ship's internal systems. "Your vessel is captured. Your specimens are being evacuated. Your operations are exposed. The only thing you're accomplishing with this standoff is making your situation worse." The ship commander's voice replied, tight with fury. "You don't understand what you're interfering with. Our work is essential for galactic stability. Some species cannot be allowed to develop unchecked. And who made you the arbiters of galactic evolution?" Tom countered. "How many civilizations have you stunted? How many species have had their natural development derailed because you decided they were a potential threat?" The silence that followed was deafening. "Breach the door," Captain Rogers ordered. The Marines moved into position, placing shaped charges at key points. The door, despite its advanced alien construction, stood no chance against explosives specifically designed to overcome its material properties. Inside, they found the command crew standing proudly defiant. The ship commander, taller than the others, stepped forward. "You think this is a victory? Our organization spans the galaxy. Others will come. They will study your methods, adapt. Let them come," Admiral Cooper's voice cut through the room. "In fact, we're counting on it. Did you really think we'd spring this trap without preparing for the consequences? Everything that's happened here has been transmitted to multiple secure locations. Your entire operation is exposed." Tom moved to a control panel, interfacing his captured device. "Transmitting final data package now, Admiral. Including some very interesting coordinates I found in their navigation database. Looks like we've got locations for at least 6 more of their facilities." The ship commander's compound eyes widened in what might have been the first real fear they'd shown. "Impossible. Those coordinates are encrypted. You know what your biggest mistake was?" Tom interrupted, turning to face the alien. "Not the abductions. Not the arrogance. Your biggest mistake was assuming that just because we didn't have your level of technology, we couldn't learn. Every person you took, every piece of technology you used, every transmission you sent, we studied all of it. We learned. We adapted. We prepared." Captain Rogers began coordinating with other boarding teams to secure the command crew. "All primary objectives accomplished, Admiral. The ship is ours." On the Nighthawk's bridge, Cooper allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before returning to business. "Excellent work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. Lieutenant Davis, status of the data transmission to Earth Command?" "Complete, sir. They're already mobilizing additional fleets. The Centauri Trading Alliance has pledged support. Apparently, they've had their own suspicions about the collectors for years but lacked proof." Cooper nodded grimly. "Prepare for Phase 4. I want this ship ready for transport back to Earth. And get me a line to the Galactic Council. It's time they learned exactly what's been happening in their jurisdiction." As Marines began securing prisoners and gathering evidence, Tom Walker stood at a viewport, watching Earth's fleet maintaining their perfect formation around the captured vessel. The aliens had thought they were studying humanity, categorizing them as just another primitive species to be contained and controlled. Instead, they'd become the catalyst for humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage, not as subjects to be studied, but as a force to be reckoned with. And it all started because they made one simple mistake. They took one Marine. 3 months after the capture of the collector vessel, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with tension. Representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations gathered to hear the final testimonies in what had become the most significant trial in recent galactic history. Staff Sergeant Tom Walker stood at the witness podium, his dress uniform pristine, medals gleaming under the chamber's lights. He'd already spent hours detailing his experience and presenting evidence. Now, he faced the council for his closing statement. Distinguished members of the council, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. You've heard the evidence. You've seen the records we recovered. But numbers and data can't tell the whole story. They can't convey the impact of what the collectors and their parent organization, the Galactic Preservation Society, have done to countless species across our galaxy. The chamber's displays showed images from the collector ship's database, dozens of species, all deemed too potentially dangerous to be allowed to develop naturally. Some had been subjected to targeted technological sabotage. Others had their best minds abducted, their progress artificially stunted. Humanity was lucky, Tom continued. We had something many others didn't, we had proof of their existence from our first contact with other species. Scattered references, fragments of stories, enough to make us suspicious. Enough to make us prepare. Admiral Cooper, seated with the Earth delegation, nodded slightly. The past 3 months had revealed the full scope of humanity's preparation. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system had been building their secret fleet for over a decade. Special forces teams had trained relentlessly for space combat. Scientists had reverse-engineered every piece of alien technology they could acquire. But this isn't just about humanity, Tom's voice hardened. This is about every species that has had their natural development interrupted. Every civilization that was deemed too dangerous to be allowed to grow. Every people who had their future stolen because they showed too much promise. The chamber's screens now showed the rescue of the specimens from the collector ship. Among the survivors were brilliant minds from multiple species, scientists, leaders, innovators. All taken because they might have helped their people advance too quickly. In the defendants area, the ship commander and other captured collectors watched silently. Their arrogance had long since given way to the realization of just how completely they'd been outmaneuvered. The evidence recovered from their ship had led to the exposure and capture of most of the Galactic Preservation Society's operations. The Society claimed they were protecting galactic stability, Tom continued. They argued that uncontrolled advancement of primitive species could lead to chaos. But look at what their actions actually achieved. Look at the species who lost decades of progress. Look at the civilizations who grew paranoid and fearful because their best minds kept vanishing. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity proposes a different approach. We've already begun sharing our defensive technologies with other affected species. We're establishing a mutual defense alliance, not to control or suppress, but to protect the right of every species to develop at their own pace. The chamber erupted in murmurs. On the screens, footage played showing human ships helping to defend smaller civilizations from remnants of the Society's forces. The Ghost Squadron's technology was now being adapted to create a detection network, ensuring no species would have to fear mysterious abductions again. We're not asking for revenge, Tom's voice cut through the noise. We're asking for justice. And more importantly, we're asking for change. The galaxy doesn't need self-appointed guardians deciding who gets to advance and who doesn't. It needs cooperation. Understanding. And yes, sometimes it needs someone willing to stand up and fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Admiral Cooper stood, joining Tom at the podium. Earth has submitted a proposal for a new framework of galactic law. One that explicitly protects the right of species to develop without interference. One that establishes clear consequences for those who would suppress others out of fear or arrogance. The council chamber's displays showed the initial signatories to the new treaty, dozens of species, many of them previous victims of the society, now standing together. The Centauri Trading Alliance had thrown their full support behind it, their extensive trade networks helping to spread the word. The collectors thought they were containing a threat when they took me, Tom said, his voice carrying a hint of steel. Instead, they provided the catalyst that brought all of us together. They wanted to study humanity's potential for advancement. Well, they succeeded. They just didn't expect that advancement to include bringing justice to the galaxy. The council deliberation was surprisingly brief. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimony compelling, and the support from multiple major civilizations decisive. The Galactic Preservation Society was officially disbanded, its assets seized, its leaders arrested. More importantly, the new protection treaty was ratified, establishing Earth as one of its primary enforcers. Later, standing on the observation deck of the Nighthawk, Tom watched the galactic capital's multiple suns setting. Admiral Cooper joined him, holding 2 cups of real Earth coffee, a luxury out here. Not bad for 3 months' work, Cooper said, handing Tom a cup. The Ghost Squadron ships are already being modified for the new defense network. 5 more species have signed the treaty just today. Tom nodded, sipping his coffee. The society was right about one thing, sir. Some species are dangerous when provoked. He smiled slightly. They just didn't realize that being dangerous isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes the galaxy needs someone willing to bare their teeth in defense of others. Well said, Sergeant. Cooper raised his cup in a toast. To humanity's first steps into a larger galaxy. And to reminding everyone why it's a bad idea to take one of ours. As the Nighthawk prepared to return to Earth, reports were already coming in from across the galaxy. Species that had been living in fear were emerging, sharing their stories, joining the growing alliance. The society had spent centuries trying to prevent what they saw as dangerous advancement. In the end, their actions had united the very species they'd tried to suppress. And it all started because they made one crucial mistake: they assumed that capturing a single human would be simple. Instead, they'd learned why humanity's unofficial motto had become a warning whispered across the stars. Don't provoke the humans. They don't just fight back, they change the rules of the game. The story of one Marine's capture had become a legend, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the galaxy isn't advanced technology or powerful weapons. Sometimes, it's underestimating humanity's ability to turn the tables.